Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Anime Night in the Dojo. Today's featured show, Fire Force, Season 3, Part 2.
Yep, Fire Force Season 3, Episode 19. Welcome back to the dojo. I'm Ryu. That's Age. We're back for more Anime Night in the Dojo. And, well, we're back after a couple weeks because Age had to deal with the fact that, there's a fire within, 3 miles of his house for, the better part of 2 weeks. So, constant evacuation order is not conducive to doing anything but being prepared to leave.
Yeah, no, a whole bunch of things. Freaking, it's hot. I've been having dental work. We have all the new freaking baby birds I've been having to take care of. Being on constant alert from the multiple fires. The one of which being right next to us, and we had to be on constant alert for, and several other ones that were taking a while to be contained that could potentially become problems.
Right. So, that's why we missed a couple weeks. But we'll be doing maybe not this week, but next week and the week after, we'll probably be having double, you know what I mean? To catch up to where we were, we'll be doing 2 things a week. So, we'll be getting say Fire Force on Wednesday twice. So 1 in the morning and 1 at night or something. Just to catch up for the weeks we missed so we can get back on schedule. Speaking of Fire Force, though, I did read up to the point that we're at right here, which is chapter 250. And they have skipped pretty much nothing. Talked about the fact that when we got halfway through the season, I would check to see, I'd read from when Shinra wakes up to where we ended last episode. And honestly, the only thing that they left out was before Benimaru's former captain, the former captain of Squad 7, showed up on the pillar as the doppelganger. Squad 1 was having a discussion about what they were going to do now that Burns was gone. They went out and fought some of the Infernals that were in the streets, and that was about it. So, 12 pages? Something like that wasn't in there. The rest of it was shot for shot, word for word. Everything was the same. There was nothing really extra in the Benimaru backstory, at least to that point at chapter 250. So they've serialized, or they've done about 40-ish chapters so far. And in the last 7 episodes here, they got to get through about 50 more chapters. So they'll probably be okay.
To clarify, what's his face, the former leader of Asakusa, he wasn't the captain of 7. Benimaru is the first captain of 7. He was the one who actually turned them into a Fire Force company.
Right. But you guys know what I mean, the former leader. It's been a couple weeks.
Yeah.
But other than those couple 10, 15 pages of just Squad 1 talking about some stuff and fighting some Infernals, it wasn't really that big of a miss. And the only other thing that is different is in the situation going on here with Giovanni, we saw that Arthur went into Amaterasu with Vulcan and the rest of that party. In the source material, Arthur stays outside and is part of the fight with Charon in a way. And then a thing occurs that's probably going to happen in the next couple episodes, maybe this one or the next one, that we all knew was coming. You know what I mean? So I could say it, but just in case, spoilers. But he doesn't go into Amaterasu with them. That's the only difference. And at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. I don't know why they changed that. Maybe the author wanted them to change something for reasons. I don't know. But again, not
him going into Amaterasu does kind of make sense from a writing perspective because they don't really have a combat person with them. At least not a major combat person. It's just it's only drawing a blank on her name.
Lisa. And once again, Lisa has her traumas with freaking Giovanni. Right.
So she's more there for tech than for fighting. But also because, once again, they're effectively Arthur's party. We've already established that. They're the main ones who freaking always get paired with Arthur.
Right. So that was a subtle change. It's probably not going to matter for what's coming up. So at the end of the day, I know a lot of people were concerned whether they would be able to adapt all the stuff in the last 80 or so chapters. And so far, what they've that little change with what Arthur's doing, and then that little brief bit with Squad 1, nothing. It wasn't really anything super important. It was just them having a discussion about Burns, what they were going to do, and that was about it. It was nothing super major, so it's not anything to worry about from that kind of story perspective. So, I mean, if that's how the last 50 chapters go, then they'll probably be all right, because there was a lot of stuff in the source material that, you know, became fight sequences, you know what I mean? And those were just a couple panels, you know, like Benny Maru's fight sequence with his former leader, that kind of thing. That was only a couple pages, and then they turned it into the spectacle that they did for the show, you know what I mean? So there might be a lot of just bigger panels, that kind of thing, in the last 50 chapters. But if it's about the same, and once again, that's so far, that's the only part of Fire Force that I have read. I don't know how the rest of it reads. I just I figured, okay, the last 80 chapters, so I just need to go back 80 chapters from the end of it or so, and, you know, I found it. It was like chapter 210 or something like that. And there was Shinra waking up, and, you know, it was all the same.
I don't know how he is about it in later stuff like Fire Force, but I did read a reasonable chunk of early Soul Eater, and in Soul Eater, the author for this he doesn't actually put that much effort into the fight scenes themselves. It's more about the characters and setting things up and stuff like that. The fight scenes themselves are usually only a couple of pages.
Right. So, I don't know. At this point, it'll probably be okay then. Because if they pulled off 40 and 6, why not 50 and 7? You know what I mean? So...
Yeah, it is definitely interesting that they managed to do 40 and 6, because once again, most cores are usually 40 to 50 for the whole, like, 12-episode core.
Yeah, and like I said, everything was pretty much verbatim. All the dialogue was there, everything was the same. There's that little bit with Squad 1, that was about it. And also the leaked disguise, his, like, poofball thing, that was actually in the source material, so not anime original. That was funny. So, yeah, it was shot for shot. You know what I mean? So, just in case anybody was wondering, that was something we said we were going to do. I did it. It didn't take me that long, because I was genuinely just skimming and looking for stuff that I hadn't seen. And it was just like, I'm just watching the show again. Yep, saw that. We saw that. That discussion. Yep, that's the same. Yep, okay, yep. Yep. It took me like 40 minutes. So it wasn't as big of an ordeal as I thought it would be. Because I'm fairly adept at skimming through stuff, especially when I'm just looking, just spot the difference. And I can just kind of like casually look at, you know, the conversations that are happening. And yeah, it was all the same. So nothing that kind of bodes well for the second half of the season here. So we're going to get our catch-up shoes on and get going here. So people on Patreon, we'll see you on the other side of the edit for the timer reaction, and people on YouTube be on the side for the discussion interview. So
who the hell would want shoes made of ketchup?
I know. Sounds kind of gross. So here goes some. Well, alrighty then, there you guys have it. Another episode in the books. We got some of how May has passed here. You know, how Charon feels about her, that kind of thing. There isn't really a huge amount to this one, really. I mean, obviously Charon's death, big deal. Age mentioned it during the live reaction that, you know, he was kind of sitting on a nuke and he went full, you know, Vegeta and the Majin Buu saga and just kind of, and then didn't take anybody with him.
Yeah, that was weird. Like, I think that was a issue with them trying to, with the friggin' animating it, in that, like, in the stills, they probably like in the actual manga panels, they probably skipped over most of the aftermath. They probably just showed the explosion and then cut to continuing the story. And they did that in the anime, and it just kind of looks weird. Whereas, like in the manga panels, you can just kind of infer. You have to infer a lot of things in manga panels in general. But in the anime, most of that stuff's supposed to actually be shown.
Yeah. So I don't know. Again, I didn't read that to that point. I did not get to the point where Charon dies. So when I do go read the last 50 chapters to see if they left anything out again at the end of the season, I'll mention it. But yeah, again, that was a little strange that nothing really came of that, but that is what it is. Again, we got more insight into Haumea and how she had to deal with having to hear thoughts all her life and that kind of thing. Obviously, that's going to tax you and weigh on you and all that kind of stuff. I can only imagine it would be absolutely terrible, because there are a lot of telepaths and stuff like that, and readers, seers, whatever you want to call them in fiction, that a lot of them can turn it off. She cannot. She is kind of like River Tam in Firefly. You know, how you have the I don't know if it's the actual thing in your brain. I'm not entirely sure, but her brother refers to it as the amygdala, and it's a thing that allows you to have the filter when you, like, if you're scared, but you tell yourself, no, I'm not scared, you can kind of turn it off. You know what I mean? Kind of the same thing. So there are a lot of characters like that have the ability to turn it off, whether it's a piece of their physiology or part of their power or whatever. In the case of Haumea, she feels everything and hears everything because she can't not, and that is horrendous.
Yeah, like the only control she has over it is she can like focus it on a single person if she wants to like really know everything that they are thinking.
Right.
But she still always picks up thoughts, regardless whether she's focusing on someone.
Yeah, and we saw that like when the member of the White Clad came in there, and he was like, "Hey, it's time for mass or whatever," and you could see all the different things that were going through his mind that she was reading from him, and all the different feelings, emotions, thoughts, that kind of thing. And then when she reads Charon, there's only one thing there, which is unconditional love. So being around him was probably helpful, just because he didn't have 18 billion things going on in his head. You know what I mean? And that's what he had to do to be her protector, is to be the calming force of just letting her beat him up, and then not having tons of different thoughts about her or whatever. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, it's a combination of just not having an overwhelming amount of things to constantly have to sort with dealing with them, but also him not really having any sort of ulterior motives or anything like that. It's just straightforward. He is just there to protect her.
Yeah. And
she doesn't have to like be on guard or constantly be probing to see if he's really trying to get something else out of her or anything, the way she does with everyone else.
Yep. So very powerful statement, was what it was. He did reach his limit. Again, his end was a little weird, that there was no like collateral damage or anything, because they're all just in that courtyard in front of Amaterasu, and that was a very large explosion that he went out on. So I don't know what the deal was with that. Maybe I don't know, based on the pacing and what they're doing with Arthur and stuff like that, that I don't know if I could like by week, like read like up into the point, like I could go to chapter 250 and then read until like say what the end of this episode was. But a couple of different things have shifted, so it's probably not a great idea for me to do that every week.
Yeah.
So just based on what I've seen so far, so just gonna have to wait. But I will be interested to see. Like I have it in the note here that we'll definitely talk about like how Charon's death was handled in the source material versus here, because it was just a little weird. You know what I mean? Like I compared it to like say what Vegeta does in the Majin Buu saga. He literally annihilates an entire area by doing that. And same thing here. Charon was releasing all the energy that the lieutenant was peppering him with for several minutes, hundreds of shots potentially.
And we know how strong the freaking lieutenant's shots are.
Right. So, just saying, nukes. Just so.
Yeah, like I could see Amaterasu mostly being intact, because that is supposed to be designed to contain ridiculous amounts of energy, so it's going to be resilient from the outside at least. But yeah, like none of the courtyard was really damaged. Everyone was just kind of standing there fine afterwards. Like
let's not forget, Iris is not there to just throw up her invincibility shield and move on with their day. You know what I mean? She's trapped in Adola with the rest of the pillars. So I don't know what that was. That's the only like question mark for me in this one.
Like I said, it's probably just that once again they're, if anything, going to frame by frame manga accurate, in that the manga probably just kind of cuts to everyone in the aftermath, but doesn't really show much beyond just that big wide shot of the explosion. And you're meant to just kind of infer the damage because it's a manga panel and you're supposed to infer things.
Right.
But that doesn't really work in the anime.
Yeah. So either way, collective and conscious stuff is still going on. The two worlds merging, whatnot, all that stuff going on. We got a couple of the other doppelgangers, like the members of Squad 5, like the Squad 5, their doppelganger was there. We got that little stinger at the end where we got to see Benimaru's doppelganger. A couple other big names, like Joker was back there.
It was 5 doppelgangers. It was Benimaru, Joker, the bully guy, and 2 other ones. I can't remember.
Yeah. So there's definitely some interesting stuff going on. Obviously, Dragon's going to be around. We got all these like very like surreal all this very surreal imagery that was cool. Even like some of the more cartoony sound effects that some people might remember from their childhoods, like a la Bugs Bunny, Looney Tunes. Those kind of classic cartoony sound effects that are timeless, that are used in situations like this, because why not? They always have a purpose. So it was kind of neat that they use stuff like that to kind of drive home the surreality of this situation and whatnot. So
because once again, the whole thing is supposed to be that imagination and thoughts are becoming real.
Yep. And that's kind of why they mentioned that if despair is the driving force for what the White Clad wanted, Shinra being around, and we've made the comparison to Persona before, biggest example is how Persona 5 ends, at least the original part of Persona 5, is where everybody's falling to despair and it's giving more power to the cognitive god. Once people start believing in the opposite direction and believing in the Phantom Thieves, they're able to turn the fight around, and Joker is able to summon Set and Isle and win the fight. So in this case, same thing. If Shinra's there to be the hero and give people hope, that would change the world away from what they want it to be in the case of merging with Adola, because it's the opposite of despair, which is hope.
Well, yeah, the merging with the Adola thing is kind of inevitable at this point. That's the thing that they set up and has like gone through without a hitch, mostly. The thing is, merging with the Adola just means the whole thing of, imagination and thoughts and stuff becoming real.
Yep.
Everything else is about the whole like planet being turned into a sun and stuff like that is all stuff that they've been trying to indoctrinate the public into doing for them.
Yeah. And in the case if Shinra's out there, then they're not going to get that.
Yeah, like the whole thing is just they have just been indoctrinating the public for hundreds of years at this point to try to get them to want this outcome, basically. It's ingrained into their whole like religion and mindset and everything.
And this guy is the perfect example. He is like Joe, every background character right there. That's how the majority of people are feeling. You know what I mean? Because that's what they've been told their entire lives. So this is where he's at, and this is where the majority of people are probably at. So until someone shows up to give them hope, which it doesn't necessarily have to be Shinra. Obviously, he's the biggest deal. But Company 8 in general. We all heard the little stinger there at the end with friggin' Tatsumaki and that kind of thing. It's... she'll probably be... And once again, we're going to have the stupid fan service discussion next week, and I'm going to have to tell people to chill the hell out because it's really not that big of a deal. It's really not. People need to just calm the hell down and get over it. It'll be interesting to see how they push that because weirdly enough, sexuality and that kind of thing is a form of hope and positivity. I hate to break it to people. Generally speaking, when it comes to that kind of thing, it's a pleasant emotion, not a negative one. So I don't know. People might not be able to cope with that one, so that's going to be something we have to talk about next time. So I'm not looking forward to that. But once again, I mentioned it at the end of our Patreon review there that I'm never not going to bring up this stuff because, once again, people need to chill out when it comes to that kind of stuff. And on the other side of the coin, chill out and just let authors do what they do. And if you don't like it, nobody's holding a gun to your head and telling you have to watch or participate in whatever it may be. You don't have to play that game. You don't have to go to that club. You don't have to climb that mountain. You don't have to watch this show. Just saying. No one's forcing you to do anything. So, yeah. That's
yeah, once again, we got the whole thing of like the White Clad have been pushing for like all the negative emotions and stuff like that. Well, passion and desire are both considered to be positive emotions.
Yep. So just like kind of how they talk about in Full Metal Alchemist, where greed is technically more positive than negative, because if there's absence of greed, that also means there is absence of ambition.
Yeah.
Because you have to be a little bit greedy to like want to, become a pro in something. You know what I mean? Because there has to be that desire, that everything that comes with greed. And that's the one thing with greed is it rides that line. It's like directly in the middle of like, yes, too much greed is a bad thing, but you do need some of it. You know what I mean?
That's the whole thing with the 7 deadly sins in general. The 7 deadly sins are 7 aspects of humanity that are all necessary for humanity to exist.
Yep.
But if they ever become unchecked, they lead you to evil.
Yep. So, either way, it was another, it was a reasonable episode for what it was. Arthur got to do his thing, the full Giovanni lobotomy. I mean, yeah. we knew that he had incredible plasma control, and it was just one of those things where, yes, he passed it off as like another like in-game event or whatever, but at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, I just squished the bug that was in his head, no big deal.
Well,
because he doesn't have to think about it. You know what I mean?
So specifically, he microwaved it.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, he used the radiation given off by his plasma to not actually do physical damage to you, but to fry Giovanni.
Right. Because at that point, Giovanni in his head, not that big of a target. And precise motion is the difference between catastrophe and success. And with as precise as Arthur is, he knew exactly how to take out Giovanni without hurting you. No problem. Except now his hair is all messed up and he has this little scar thing over his nose. But, at least
his
he doesn't have...
He has scars all over his body. But yeah, it's just like...
At least he's not a bug anymore.
Yeah, he's like in some weird like half state between like human and infernal.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with that. But yeah, there's definitely once again a lot of cool stuff coming. Just what comes of the Soul Eater verse, that kind of thing. It'll be interesting to see how they deal with that. I'm very interested to see how they like introduce Lord Death, that kind of thing. How Excalibur shows up, that kind of deal. And yeah, so there's definitely a lot of cool stuff coming in the second half of the season here. And again, they did 40 chapters in 6, about 40 chapters in 6 episodes, and they only skipped probably what would have amounted to 2 to 3 minutes of actual screen time that was relatively irrelevant. We kind of got like the back end of that when we did See Squad 1 in this episode, and that's really all they've been doing. Like I said, they had a little discussion about Burns and what they were going to do, and then they went out to fight Infernals with the situation that was going on here. So, like I said, there was a couple of discussions between the couple higher up guys that were still left, and that was about it. There wasn't anything like super mind shattering or very important. It was just, what are we going to do? Okay, we're going to do this. We're going to send him. We're going to do this. This is your new bodyguard. That's about it.
Yeah, I mean, freaking Company 1 is practically inexistent at this point. It's basically just the 2 lieutenants.
Right.
Because freaking Rekka's dead, Burns is dead, Tamaki's still on her like probation and into Company 8.
Yeah. So either way, yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of interesting stuff to come, and based on what they've done in the first 6 episodes, and just basing it off of how the source material reads and flows, they'll probably be okay. You know what I mean?
Especially because I imagine these last 50 chapters are basically just going to be just a nonstop fight.
Yeah. Which will cut down on a lot of the stuff that you might miss out on, because once again, like I said, Benimaru's fight with his old master was like 2 pages. Something like that. It was just, they had their thing, they had their discussion. Benimaru talked about his Nichirin, and then he did the thing, and there was the moon like 3 pages later. And in this, that it was a solid like 10 12-minute sequence. You know what I mean? So for stuff like that, they got plenty of time.
Which, once again, we still haven't gotten the Soul Eater's son yet.
Yeah. So at some point, we got to get the sun. And again, even with that stuff being 3 pages and stuff like that, it still flowed very well. And not every chapter was a lot of pages. You know what I mean? For anybody who reads manga and stuff like that out there. From my personal experience, the average chapter length is like 18 pages, and it can be anywhere from like 10 pages to like 50 pages on the top end, like when Dandadan first released, like the first couple of chapters were like 50 pages. So it's not a huge amount happens in each chapter sometimes. You know what I mean? So you could have like a 20-page chapter, and it was just, a couple things here and there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
the chapters are chapters in general for both novels and for manga are generally just marking out sections of the story.
Yep.
And then like most manga volumes are typically about 120, 160-ish pages, and however many chapters that ends up being based on the story.
Right. And it's usually 8 to 12 chapters ish, something like that, maybe 15 in there. So either way, I think it'll be fine. Yeah, and if it's not, like I said, before the last episode, I will read all the way up to wherever that is and then be like, hey, this is what happened. And with one episode to go, they got maybe like, I don't know, 10 chapters left. They could probably pull it off. You know what I mean? So it'll probably be okay. And for the sub and stuff like that, I think that's next week as we speak right now at the end of March here. I believe the sub ends next week or ended this week, one of the two. But yeah, so it will be interesting to see. We have a little catch up to do, but the next couple weeks we'll have like 2 of each episode while we catch up and get back in schedule for the spring stuff that will be starting here next week. Slime starting back up again. That's going to be a huge ordeal. Among other things, we got the news that Tanya Season 2 is a thing this summer as well. So we got a ton of stuff on the plate. We got to watch One Piece, the live action. We said we were going to do that. It's Netflix, so that came out in one day, so that's pretty irrelevant. I mean, it's I haven't really seen a lot of spoilers, but it's usually that kind of stuff isn't on my feed. It's just like, hey, this is a thing. The only thing I really saw about that was everybody banning over Nico Robbins, actress nailing it or something, which that's good. We should celebrate that. If she nailed the role, great. Why would you be mad about that? You know what I mean? She nailed the role. I can't believe this. I can't believe she's done this. It's like, are you kidding me? Why would you be mad about her nailing the character? Isn't that what she was supposed to do? What?
But does the actress look like Nami?
Right. Again, back to the sexual discussion. Emily Rudd's tits are too small. that was the other thing that I saw. Really, just I have nothing. I got nothing for that.
we watched the first season, and she does look like Nami, apart from the whole thing of Nami's figure being ridiculous.
Yeah.
Especially in the later chapters, she gets more and more ridiculous as the show goes on.
Which, for anybody who doesn't know One Piece lore, there's actually a lore reason why Nami and Robin and anybody that's around them become more voluptuous and ridiculous. It's because of Sanji's cooking. He's doing it on purpose. He's doing it on purpose and not on purpose. Sanji, being the incredible chef that he is, with the meals that he cooks, leads to people becoming like top tier in their body. And that's what his gimmick is. That's why Nami gets ridiculous, and Oda has talked about, like, yeah, that's because of Sanji's cooking. That's why. You know what I mean? Yes, there was a time skip where they weren't around each other for a couple years. It is irrelevant. It doesn't matter. It was already set that way. So, I don't know. Yeah, but either way, that was the other thing that I saw, and I was just like, listen, you're not going to turn somebody into an anime character. It's kind of few and far between. I know there was a lot of people that talked about, like, Eve from Stellar Blade. There's not a body type like that exists. Eve is based on a real Korean gymnast. Go look her up. Her figure is insane, and most gymnast figures are insane because that's what they train to do.
Yeah, you can base an anime character or a 3D model or something like that off of a real person, but trying to make a real person look like an anime figure or 3D model is way difficult. Way more difficult.
Right. And in the case of Emily Rudd and Nami, she's fine. There's nothing wrong with her. She's attractive. She's playing the role well. It doesn't matter. Just because her chest size is not up to par with the anime is insane and an insane take. You know what I mean? And you could look at it, oh, people were trolling. Some of them might have been, but I can guarantee you guys, most of them were being dead serious, like it really matters. Because it doesn't. It absolutely doesn't. What about, the guy playing Usopp? He doesn't have the Pinocchio nose. What the hell? You know what I mean? Why aren't we complaining about that? So...
Again, that is a far more like distinguishing thing, and that was like I was actually like initially speculating on whether or not he was even going to be Usopp when he showed up in season 1 because he didn't have that when it's such a like signature appearance.
And the actor for Sanji, they didn't do the curly eyebrows.
Yeah,
they could have. I mean, it's not a big deal. I understand who the characters are supposed to be. Season 1 was quite good, even though I never saw that part of One Piece. I randomly watched it was like an Adult Swim thing, and I watched like it was like Water 7, that arc, to the end of the Fishman Island arc. That's how much of the show I saw, which 290 something episodes, mind you, that was. But still, that's only like 25% of the show. But
like 25% of season 1.
Yeah, keep in mind, if you go on a weird random thing to get somebody on that people talk about, like how seasons of shows are usually this length or whatever, just remember that One Piece season 1 was 1,200 episodes about. So just there's that random little factoid. Because technically speaking, One Piece season 1 was like 1,160 something episodes, because then they took their hiatus and went they're going seasonal now to finish the show. So since it was running that whole time, technically all season 1. Technically. But as for Fire Force, yeah, it's gonna be fun. And can't talk about anything else because it's spoiler territory. Just have to wait for it to happen, and then we can talk about it. So, anyway. Again, we'll be catching up on the stuff that we've missed while Age was in Firetown, and I was dealing with stuff as well. Yeah, so we'll once again, probably not next week, or not this week, but next week we'll probably have the next 2 weeks after this one, we'll have 2 and 2 to catch up. Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, people of YouTube, beyond heavy watching, as always, we appreciate you stopping by and hanging with us here in the dojo for more Anime Night. Fire Force, Season 3, Episode 19. Have a good morning, evening, afternoon, whatever it is for you. Have a good one. We'll see you next time.
Hey everyone, Victoria here. If you enjoyed the video, please consider pushing those like and subscribe buttons. Your support is greatly appreciated. Thanks again for your time, and we hope to see you again in the future.